Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, I don't think I've ever seen radars like this. The big hurricane that's hitting Florida as we speak, Milton, that looks scary. They had to come up with some new colors. I'm not sure if I've ever seen like that sort of gun barrel gray on a hurricane before. To help make sense of it, my first guest here, going to clear some of this up. Daniel Huckabee is a meteorologist at the National Weather Service. Thanks for being on the James Show here in Dallas. How long do we expect this to last?
Well, right now the storm is about 150 miles southwest of Tampa and headed toward Tampa Bay right now. We're expecting landfall sometime this evening, and then it's going to track across the peninsula of Florida overnight before exiting into the Atlantic tomorrow morning. So we've got a long night ahead of us there in Florida. Are
we setting any records here?
Well, the Tampa Bay area is notoriously difficult to hit with a hurricane. The last time they've had a storm of this caliber was 1921. They've had some glancing blows, and of course, Helene brought some strong winds and some storm surge to that area. But in terms of a major hurricane making landfall in the Tampa Bay area, it's been more than a century.
What's the explanation for that? Just the way the winds blow, or what?
More or less. In the tropics, we typically have winds that blow east to west, so we see those hurricanes, tropical storms moving across the Caribbean east to west. And so they typically, as they head toward Florida, they'll hit the East Coast. You kind of have to have a storm to recurve and turn to the west. This one was a little bit unusual. It formed in the Caribbean Gulf and then is moved across the Gulf from west to east. We see these later in the season, but it's a difficult to get storms to hit the west coast of Florida.
Yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense when you explain it like that. And when you think in your head, like, what's the path of most of these hurricanes? You know, they usually go straight up or west. So I guess that does make sense. Do we have anything else forming that we're concerned about?
Not for the U.S. There are some storms out in the Atlantic, but typically this time of year, like I said, those storms will try to move west, but we have at the latitude of the United States, the steering flow is generally west to east, so you often see those storms sort of recurve and go out in the Atlantic. And as we get later in the season, particularly here in Texas, we had a cold front. Didn't really feel like it, but a cold front yesterday that brought us some north winds, so it's harder to get up into the Texas coast, and so more of those west to east winds taking those storms out to sea this time of year. So we get later in the season, there'll still be some storms out there, but maybe for Florida, but certainly not for Texas.
All right, Daniel Huckabee, I need you to take me serious. I know you're a for-real meteorologist at the National Weather Service, but I have friends who think that there's people with weather machines that are, if not forming these storms, at least contributing to them or directing them. Or, I mean, please don't just laugh me out of the room here. How do I explain to them that just sounds ridiculous? And technologically speaking, I mean, is that impossible? To me, it sounds impossible. Is it?
Very, very difficult. These storms have incredible power, and if we could dissipate it, if we could change its course, I think we would. We certainly wouldn't want to have a storm like this headed toward a large metropolitan area like that.
Oh, no, Daniel. This is so they can relax election laws and sneak in some, I don't know. I don't, Daniel, I have to deal with these people. I just need some expertise to say, look, man, we can barely predict the weather, much less control it.
Well, we try to predict these storms as well as we can, and this one has actually been pretty well behaved. It was making a beeline toward Tampa Bay even last weekend, and it stayed on course.
All right, thank you very much, Daniel Huckabee with the National Weather Service. Go get back to work. Serious time for you guys. I appreciate your time.
All right, thanks for having me.
And listen, I would like to hear you out. If you are one of these people, I will be respectful. I will be kind. I'm not going to call you stupid or conspiracy theorist or nutbaggery or anything. But I want to hear from you. Do you think that someone's controlling the weather? Because my same friend that is suspicious that these storms are being either manufactured or controlled or intensified somehow, she also thinks that chemtrails are a thing, where they're seeding the atmosphere with I don't know, making the frogs gay or something. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I know, you can nod in there. You have those friends too. 800-288-9227. I want to hear from some of these people coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. And thank you for speaking up. I realize a lot of people out there have beliefs that they're not willing to share for fear of being made fun of or mockery or whatever. It's not going to happen here. Even if I strongly disagree, I'm not going to call you stupid or whatever, because I get things wrong. I've had to change my mind on things. Sometimes people who get called conspiracy theorists are pretty often proven right, whether it was, mask or vaccines or the lab leak theory or, Jussie Smollett or whatever. But Toby says, for chemtrails, Google Operation Sea Spray. Your friend may not be 100% correct, but there's a there. Yeah. There's no doubt that they've experimented and tried to control the weather and maybe had a little bit of success with cloud seeding, or some of it's up in the air. But the ability to conjure a hurricane or steer a hurricane or intensify a hurricane or whatever, you're giving the government too much credit if you get into that territory. They have problems making a website. Mariah, this is Mariah in Commerce. You're on WBAP. What do you think about this hurricane situation?
Hi, yes, sir. So, as you mentioned, it is hard to share these kind of ideals with somebody just because of how you're, afraid of how you might be viewed. However, I think it is important to remember and mention that there are multiple U.S. patents for cloud seeding, including US 6315213B1, and that's just one of many, and it's as easy as getting on the internet and doing a simple web search and looking up these U.S. patents and then digging in and doing some reading and seeing what actually the government is capable of doing or what people are capable of doing with the weather. And not only that, but there are patents for earthquakes. There's patents for many things. So I think that it's just a classic move of the government to create problems with the climate and then, blame it on the citizens of, not only the United States, but everybody in the world. Oh, our carbon footprint, we're leaving such a bad carbon footprint, and the atmosphere is just being destroyed by us as they fly around in their private jets, with ease, spending millions of dollars, on God knows how much fuel to jet themselves around to these, UN world meetings and such that they like to have where they blame us for being the problem. So I'm not saying for sure 110% that I just know that they're messing with it, with the weather. I do think it is convenient that there are a lot of lithium mines in North Carolina that have not been messed with in a long time, and that's billions of dollars worth of revenue that, potentially if they could get their hands on, that they could be making a lot of money off of the lithium mines. And I think it's convenient, that there are 3 massive hurricanes forming. And to my knowledge, this is the first time that we know of that happening, just that we have that in world history on record, 3 hurricanes forming at one time. So do I believe that the government could be manipulating the weather? Oh, definitely. I think that could be a possibility.
So then the question becomes, are these hurricanes intentional, or are they recklessly the result of us already screwing with the weather? Did it just so happenstance hit North Carolina, or can they actually not just make it, but steer it in a certain direction? How far do you go on those questions?
Well, as far as steering it in a certain direction, I'm not sure, just because it's not my area of expertise, obviously, to know what their ability would be. I would have to research and dig further and see if they can actually control the trajectory of it or where it's aimed at. However, I do think it's a convenient coincidence that there is a lot of money to be had in those lithium mines. And, from what we hear now, the $750 that they want these people, they've been absolutely devastated. They don't have a computer to access to ask for this $750 or fill out the application, and then it's just a loan. They would have to give it back, or their property could otherwise be seized by the government. So I think all of that is really convenient, and I think it's also convenient that this is an election year. We can always expect the government to meddle around and do things to cause chaos whenever we're in election. We're in an election year. But
Mariah, I'm gonna put you on hold, but do not hang up. We're gonna talk to John real quick, and then we'll come right back to you, okay? And you'll see why. Just a second. John in Keller, you're on WBAP. What did you want me to ask, or what did you want to say?
Well, I wanted to say, as I'm curious how many people that think we're controlling the weather also think that we couldn't land on the moon.
See, that's what I want to. I'll ask Mariah. Hang on, John. I'll ask Mariah and get right back to you. Yeah, see, Mariah in Commerce, John in Keller wants to know if you think people landed on the moon.
Oh gosh. I mean, I believe in the moon landing, perhaps, but I also am going to leave room to say that stranger things under heaven and earth, because NASA has been seen in many videos using harnesses and things to make it appear as if they're on the space station when actually they are not. So I don't just trust NASA either, and they have a massive part in our budget. We give them millions of dollars, and it kind of makes you wonder what that money is going towards if it's not towards space research.
Yeah, there you go. That just made it a great question. See, and it's not that makes you wrong or makes us more skeptical of your position, but we just kind of noticed that some people who like some theories that the mainstream considers outlandish, they actually like a lot of theories. Maybe you're just someone who is partial to outlandish theories.
Sure, I guess you could say that, or just open-minded and not, willing to lean one way just because something sounds crazy. No,
listen.
Everything's worth looking into.
Right, and for even when I disagree with people on subjects like this, there's a certain respect that comes with it, because at least you are skeptical of the mainstream narrative. At least you are a critical thinker, even if you came to a different conclusion than I did. And you spend your time like researching and reading about cloud seeding, and you knew the patent number. You probably had it in front of you because you looked it up on some notes, because you've already done some research. And you are far superior to people that can name 5 Kardashians. I think I can name like 3 or 4, but
oh goodness.
Right. Like there's a bunch of people that are lined up right outside of my office because we're on the American Airlines Center and Charlie XCX is playing tonight. You're not one of those people. What are you doing? You going to work or something?
I'm actually going to have dinner with my husband, who just got home from his training in the military. My husband's in the Coast Guard, so we're spending
fantastic.
some family time together.
All right, well, good. Thank you very much. I'm going to go back to John and Keller now. Thanks, Mariah.
Thank you. All
right, John and Keller, we got you your question answered real quick. Good job.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. I don't know. There are people that are so willing to believe, well, just a lot of things that are not really possible, but then to turn around to things that were possible, and there's a lot of evidence, they decide that couldn't have possibly have happened. And I think it's a lot easier to land men on the moon than it is to control a level 5 hurricane.
Right. It would take like more power and energy, and like how many oscillating fans would you need to get that sucker up to 180 miles an hour? Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. That was a great experiment. And John, I can hear it in your voice. You know these people personally.
I do know some. Yes.
Yes. That same here. One of my close friends, a couple of them, give me crap all the time because they know what I do for a living. Thank you, John and Keller. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Got some other good callers lined up. You can get in on this, because the question is the government controlling the weather? Is someone controlling the weather? Someone making these storms, or if not making them, steering them or making them more intense? And don't be shy. All open-minded people are welcome. 800-288-9227. This is The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, we have the storm of the century. I don't know if it's that, but it's a damn big one. I mean, it's huge. There's going to be big problems for people out there, and some people are going to lose their lives. A lot of people are going to lose their homes. It's not anything to make fun of, but I have some people in my close orbit, multiple people in my close orbit. These aren't dumb people. These aren't gullible people. They're suspicious of these hurricanes and kind of tie it to the idea that maybe someone's controlling it. Maybe this isn't accidentally happening. Maybe this isn't just a coincidence. Why would they do it? Well, there's some lithium mines. They want to have an excuse to relax the laws around the election. I hear different excuses from different people, and we're just giving you a fair hearing here on The James Show. I'm not saying I agree with you. I don't, but I like having the discussion. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Mark, Texarkana, you're on the James Show. What do you think about this?
What's going on, Brother James?
Hey, Mark.
First of all, I'm just making the world a more beautiful place, one brush stroke at a time.
You're an artist?
No, I'm painting right now.
Oh, okay.
Hey, man, so, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's crazy, right? I don't know. I think the one thing I would agree with you on would be that we might maybe giving the government too much credit for doing it. So if it's happening, it's probably going to be more in the private sector. You know, the elites, the kind of the globalist syndicate or whatever you want to call it. I mean, all you have to do is look up the UAE. They just did a weather modification deal where they showed the video of it. It was a news report and everything. And like the next day, the massive floods in Dubai happened. And so, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I believe that it's highly possible.
Highly possible? You don't think it's a long shot?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of long shots out there. Like, you look at...
controlling the weather is a pretty big one. I'm not talking about the Cowboys making the NFC Championship game. I'm talking about someone manufacturing a storm that's a little bit bigger than Texas.
Yeah, it's probably crazy. It's probably out there, kind of like how, you know, it would be out there that COVID would get released right before that, or that Michelle Obama is actually a woman. We definitely did not land on the moon. So
okay. Well, and that was the overlap John and Keller was pointing out. He was right again. John and Keller gets points. Give John and Keller 6 points for that one.
Well, I mean, we cannot go back. We have not been able to go back. You know,
to the moon?
Apollo missions. We've lost the technology.
Well, I think we're going to go back. We just have to do an environmental impact statement first, and then make sure we're not going to destroy the delicate ecosystem of the moon. Thank you very much for calling all the way from Texarkana. Tell Liberty Ilo they're sorry for beating Buck Tussle a couple weeks ago. Cindy in Weatherford, you're next up on WBAP. What do you think about these big old storms?
Yeah, I think geoengineering has been around since the late 1800s. And if you look up the patents, we have patents all the way back to the late 1800s for titanium dioxide, silver iodine. 2001, the USA, DuPont has a patent. USA has a patent in 2001 for, it says in the actual patent, control of hurricane and tornado path.
Right.
So I don't think there's any question.
Well, I don't think...
I've seen interviews with pilots. They get paid per gallon of whatever they disperse. I mean, look at the COVID. They had patents for the vaccine 2 years before COVID was even released. So, yeah, I think it's all one world order.
I don't understand how that makes your case solid. Of just because people develop technology to try and do cloud seeding doesn't mean they can stir up a storm that's the size of Texas, the size of our state. Okay,
well, look up what happened in Beijing Olympics. I don't know. I forget if it was the opening ceremonies or whether it was the winter, but they did cloud seeding, so it didn't rain on opening ceremonies, or was it was something that I'm going blank right now.
No, I do believe in cloud seeding. For agricultural purposes, they've always wanted to say those clouds above them, how can we make them start dropping water on our crops? And so, it's just a collection of water up there, but they need what's the thing called that they glom onto? They need a seed or whatever. Oh yeah, no, it's not a seed. There's something else.
Go with what happened in Hawaii with HARP and the directed laser energy. They can heat up waters. They can change the whole weather pattern of how hot.
Okay, so let's
tornado come off the coast of Cancun.
Yeah, but let's explore. Let's explore that. If they are using lasers to heat up the water, because really, what you need to make a hurricane is just warm air, cold air, and warm water. So the ingredients are pretty minimal. You don't need sodium dioxide or silicate particles or anything. But the amount of energy it would take for a laser to heat up the water, because it's like 1 calorie per millimeter of water to raise it 1 degree. Where would you get the power to run that laser? It would take more than.
Did you watch the film documentaries on what happened in Lahaina in Hawaii?
I did not. I can't say I did.
There's no way that was just a spontaneous fire from electrical.
Cindy, I've got to run. I'm out of time for this segment, but my email is james@wbap.com. If you could send me a link to that, maybe I can squeeze it in. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Perfect. I appreciate it. And thanks for tolerating my skepticism. I hope you don't think I'm an idiot.
Okay. No.
All right, cool. All right, coming up next, we'll talk with Sergeant Betsy Brantner-Smith about the security situation coming up after the hurricane, because one of the most dangerous parts is after the hurricane's gone and there's this little mini societal breakdown. What that is like in 5 minutes on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I guess we're all a little concerned about our neighbors over in Florida after Helene came through and wrecked shop. They're getting an even bigger wallop with Milton, which is going to make landfall. I like the way Kimberly describes it, about dinner time tonight. That's way better than 6:30 Eastern time. So, man, this is terrible. I've been through it, and one of the big concerns, safety-wise, isn't necessarily the hurricane itself. A lot of damage is done. A lot of people are hurt. A lot of lives are ruined in the ensuing chaos for the week or two after the hurricane when society's trying to put itself back together. And whenever you have sort of a societal breakdown like that, public safety becomes, I don't want to say impossible. It's just you're putting it in your own hands. Someone who knows a little bit about that, Sergeant Betsy Brantner-Smith's back on from the National Police Association. Welcome back. What do they teach cops to do different after a natural disaster like this?
Well, James, one of the things that we learn is that it's human life first. So property second, human life first. And so in a situation like this, I think Governor DeSantis was absolutely correct in his statements where he said, look, we're a Second Amendment state. The police and other first responders can't be everywhere and may not be available. And if you're going to loot, you better be prepared to meet a gun owner in South Florida.
Oh, I love that approach. Love that approach because where I experienced most of my hurricane action, which was the New Orleans area, totally different approach. Horrible results. Well,
absolutely. And that's why I think it was very important that the governor came out and he made these very strong statements, because what's law enforcement going to be doing during a hurricane? We're going to try and save the public. We're also going to make sure that our families are safe and we are safe, but the police are going to be out there they're going to be the last people to leave, but are we going to be worrying about property? No, we're going to be worrying about human life. As soon as the storm is over, however, and Governor DeSantis was very clear on this, that people need to recognize that in Florida, if you loot, you're going to have a big problem, including prosecutors. If you are arrested, they have prosecutors that are going to prosecute these criminals to the fullest extent of the law. People who loot after a national disaster are right up there with animal abusers, elder abusers, all of that. They're just the lowest of the low. And Governor DeSantis is going to treat them as such.
Absolute scumbags, for sure. Now, listen, I'm from around here, so where I was born and raised, where we didn't have hurricanes. When I got to live down there, it became apparent to me why so many people don't leave during a hurricane, because I was one of the people growing up saying, look, dude, if you don't evacuate, that's on you. But when you live in a hurricane area, you get 10 of these alerts a year, and only 2 of them end up being like a significant storm. So there's so many, boy cried wolf moments that's number one, is you've overextended your effect on being sensational when you do it too much. And then on top of that, I'm paying $2,000 a month to live in this house. I put a bunch of blood, sweat, and tears in here. I have, some kids, and I don't have the disposable income to just pick up and go hang out in Georgia for a week or so. So I understand why people stayed now. It's just that's where the chaos really comes from, is these poor people that are left behind.
Well, it really is. And not everybody has the means to try and get out of there. If you don't have relatives that live inland or live up north, there may not be hotels. You can't afford hotels. Plus, a lot of people don't want to leave their property. This may be the only things that they own,
right,
are what is in that home or mobile home or whatever. A lot of people don't want to leave their pets. And plus, a lot of people, let's face it, in South Florida, people are tough. And so a lot of people are going to try and stay. I'm going to guess a lot of people that do stay have ridden out many hurricanes in the past. And but unfortunately, again, from a law enforcement perspective, it's going to be law enforcement that's going to have to come and discover those people who didn't evacuate, who ended up, encountering peril in their homes. So that's why law enforcement encourages everybody to leave, to evacuate when the government tells you. But again, we understand why people don't want to do that.
Tell them about National Police Association.
Hey, listen, go to nationalpolice.org, nationalpolice.org. Take a look at all the great stuff we do. Sign up for that newsletter and hit the donate button if you can. We're doing great work for law enforcement and the people who support us.
Thank you, Betsy. Nationalpolice.org. Got it, folks? All right, we're doing the contest still for those of you who are trying to score a trip to Vegas to see the Scorpions at Planet Hollywood Resort and Casino, compliments of Live Nation. Your keyword for this time around, the word Vegas, VEGAS. You text that right now to 95819. Vegas to 95819 for your next entry to win the trip to see the Scorpions at Planet Hollywood in Vegas. Your next clue is going to come before the end of the James Show. So keep it right here. Full list of contest rules. Go to WBAP.com. Coming up next, we're going to talk to a property insurance expert about what's going to happen with all the insurance hassle and getting people back to normal after these hurricanes. That's coming up in about 10 minutes on the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. You know, every time I say my email address, even if I'm talking to one specific person, I get emails from other people. Let's try this again. James at WBAP.com. Watch, I'm going to get one in like 14 seconds. Oh, James, just thought of something. My next guest is going to help understand the aftermath of what's going on with these big storms. His name's Ron Snofer. He's a property insurance expert. And when you have a metropolitan area of about 3 million people get hit with about 10 feet of water, what does the insurance fallout look like? Do they just pay all the claims?
Oh, so a lot of people, it depends on what part of the country you're in. Some of them don't have any flood coverage whatsoever. The Carolinas that just got hit, less than 2% of the people up there had flood coverage. So there will be no payouts for 98% of the people. FEMA doesn't have to pay anything. There is no coverage. Those houses are gone. Those commercial buildings are gone.
And you can't really fault them for not having flood coverage in an area that never floods.
It was a 1,000-year flood. It's the first time that thing has flooded in 1,000 years. It was crazy.
It's older than America since the last time that flooded. All right, so some people are just going to be left high and, well, wet. I don't know. It's just, all right, that was a bad pun. I'll take it back. We'll edit that part out, Garrett, that bad joke. But so what about the people who do have insurance? Do they have to wait a long time? What's the process like for these people?
So that's a little bit of a confusion thing right now because FEMA is claiming they're out of money. And with Milton about to hit in the next 12 hours in Florida, which will probably be one of the biggest tornado or hurricanes that have hit in Florida in a long time, where it hits. Tampa Bay hasn't been hit in 50 years, and now it has 7.3 million people in it. So the devastation there is going to be catastrophic. And it's not just the hurricanes. There's been 39 tornado warnings in advance of the hurricane. So there's already traumatic wind events spinning up in the whole state of Florida because of the hurricane that's offshore.
All right. So what is FEMA being out of money? How does that slow things down? I'm under the impression that you call like your Allstate or whoever you have your home insurance through to get that taken care of.
So in Florida, you'll have two types of claims. You'll have your wind claim, which will be paid for your Allstate, your State Farms, your normal policies, and so forth. But your flood claims, which they're saying there's going to be a surge anywhere from 12 to 15 feet in certain areas, those claims are all paid by FEMA, and you're capped at $250,000. So if you don't get 135-mile-an-hour winds that knock down your building or rip off your roof, and you get a flood surge that comes in, you're capped at $250,000 worth of loss at that point in time. And because they're claiming they're bankrupt, it could be years before you actually get paid.
Yikes. All right. So it's not anything we have to worry about up here, though, right?
DFW, not so much, but we have tornadoes. I don't know if you remember the tornado that came through in 2019 that went right through Dallas, was 17 and a half miles long, wiped out a wide stretch of homes, commercial business owners, and so forth. We get those types of claims too, and it took a long time to rebuild after that.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your insight on this. Boy, that does not sound like a fun thing to go through. I feel sorry for those people, Ron.
It's going to be a long, long battle.
How do they find your work outside of WBAP, Ron Snofer?
They can look us up at nationalclaims.com.
Thank you very much. That's just sad. That although I didn't even know that only 2% of those people in North Carolina had flood insurance. That just made the whole story a lot worse. My goodness. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. As crazy as 2024 has been, I did not have a nationwide IV shortage on my 2024 bingo card. Look, I didn't have assassination attempts either. But to spell out how bad this is, my next guest is Dr. Bill Hennessy. How bad are we talking here?
We don't know yet. But we do know there's a shortage. Now, is it going to get to the point where it absolutely affects patients and how many? It's best to be prepared for the worst and hope for the best.
Okay, so the genesis of the problem comes from a plant in North Carolina that it says, according to this report, makes about 60% of the IV solutions for the U.S.?
Yes, sir. That's Baxter. They do make that, but that doesn't mean that the other 40% aren't capable of stepping up production, and we could also outsource from overseas in addition to hospitals having stocked up supplies, and IV fluids would be something very common and needed and stocked up.
Oh, Dr. Hennessy, that's exactly what I was hoping to hear. The other 40%, it's not made in Tampa Bay, is it?
Gosh, no. It's not. They're going to have a lot of water there. In fact, it is salt water, which is what is the most common IV, sodium chloride.
Sweet.
But we need it just a little bit more sterile than the way it's coming into Tampa tonight.
Right. Less plankton probably would be a good thing. Is there any concern about the other guys being able to step in and fill the void here?
My gut tells me this is not going to be an issue. I am fine with the American Hospital Association asking for the Defense Production Act to be put into place. That was put into place into COVID. What that would do is help fund smaller producers to become larger producers. It would also allow some companies that have the ability to adapt their mechanical equipment to make IV fluids when maybe they're used to making some other type of fluid.
Yeah, that makes sense. So like some bottling plant that's like making Sunkist right now can start making some saline or a mag bag or something to that effect.
You got salt water and sugar water. You could give them bigger names and higher price tags, but it comes down to salt water and sugar water, so it's doable.
Very good. Well, I'm glad we talked to you, Dr. Hennessy. Where can they find your work outside of WBAP?
Well, I'm in your backyard right there. In Dallas is our headquarters. The company is Care Guide, putting the care back into healthcare. We help people save money before and after care occurs. You ever hear of a surprise hospital bill? Yeah. We take care of that.
Fantastic. Well, I might have to mix up some saline in my bathtub or something, make a few extra bucks. Thank you, Dr. Bill Hennessy.
Well, you're quite welcome. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Good, because that was the answer I was hoping for. Because I see people, oh my goodness, we knocked out this plant, 60% of our IVs production's off. Well, does that mean we're only going to have 40% left with no one else on planet Earth? They don't make IVs in Canada or Mexico, or there's not someone else that could just step up? And apparently there is. I think people just like being scared sometimes. All right, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, Kamala still can't answer how she'll govern different from Biden. She was stumped on that at 60 Minutes. She was stumped on that at The View. And then she was asked again on Colbert last night. How would you be different? Wait till you hear her third time dropping the ball on what should be a pretty simple question. That's coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.